场的时间呢，我们来连线 Warren 来和大家聊一聊市场的热点以及值得大家关注的事件。
Hi Maggie 和各位每周华尔街的观众朋友，大家好。今天我们来说一下这个一周的这个行情哈。从这些数据来看哈，今天的整个的一周呢，整个的指数呢应该下跌了2% average。虽然亚马逊的业绩非常不错，但是我们也有苹果的业绩呢是比较糟糕的。同时呢一些经济数据哈，就是中国的 PMI 数据创下15年的新低。中国的全年的上半年的全国的发电量是创下35年来的最低点。这是一个非常糟糕的数据，也就是说中国可能还需要更多的量化宽松。现在维持美股在高位震荡的一个重大的因素应该是说这个整个的一个量化宽松还在继续。但是我觉得没有理由去看多中国的股票啊。那么我今天呢也认为呢中国股市呢已经结束了调整，虽然有政府的一个支撑，但是犹如1929年美国股市一样，摩根家族也是对股市有了相当大的一个支撑，但是结果呢是出现了一个暴跌。所以我建议大家呢做空这个买 ASHR puts， 就是看跌中国的一个就是可以看跌的一个买 ASHR 的看跌的一个股票CHAD， 这是我看好应该是去买的，现在44块钱到60块8毛7那么同时呢，整个的美股市场呢也进入了一个新的调整。今天标普呢也连续4连阴跌破50天均线，下探2044这个点位就是下周的事情。所以总体来看，我们已经接近了盈利季度的一个最后一个星期。我个人感觉没有太多的利好，我们只有不断的利空因为美国的整个的 margin debt， 整个的借贷的比例呢是非常的高，而且中国的股市呢已经从香港股市当中看到，大家都非常惊讶，中国的 PMI 数据在这么多的量化宽松的举措下毫无反弹的意愿。同时商品期货油价创出新低，6年的新低，黄金创出新低， FCX 大家可以看今天又跌了10%，这是铜的一个龙头股。所以这些因素使我没有办法去看多整个的股票市场。当然银行股是非常不错，但是只是这么多板块当中一个。好，那么我们就今天说这一点。
在本次 Money Show 的活动当中呢，Warren也是和投资报告的主笔 Mark 一起探讨了当下的市场，通过研究顾问的持股以及动向来了解一下他们喜欢的板块以及美股未来的走势方向吧。
Hi Mark, nice to meet you here at the Money Show. We are Chinese investors and our audience are mainly Chinese investors around the world who's watching the U.S. equity market.
Right.
As we know, you are the kind of like financial digest to get all the financial advisory newsletter and use their information, get the sentiment of the market. What do you think of the market right now, especially this afternoon? You're talking about some bear markets coming, am I correct? Or the sentiment is getting more bearish than bullish right now?
I know, that's very fascinating. I tend to take what's known as a contrarian perspective on that, which is to say that when there is a lot of worry about a bear market, it's actually a good thing.
Okay.
And when there's too much bullishness, it's a sign that the market may have some downside risk. And right now, as you mentioned, there is a lot of concern about a possibility of a bear market. And ironically enough, that's a good thing. I mean, here we are, the NASDAQ is at an all-time high. The broad market averages like the Dow or the S&P are within 1% or so of an all-time high. And yet the average advisor we track is mostly in cash right now, which is amazing. You'd think if you and I had had this conversation, let's say 6 months ago, and we said, okay, here we have a market with some averages at an all-time high and others close to an all-time high, I think we would have predicted that the sentiment among the advisors would also be very high. I mean, we'd think there would be a lot of bullishness out there. But the fact of the matter is that it's just not the case. We carefully track the sentiment every day. We objectively measure it. It's not just our impressions about what the sentiment is, but it's objectively measured. We look at several hundred advisors on a daily basis, and we can tell you, on average, what their exposure to the market is right now. And right now, most of them are not exposed at all to the market. They're in cash.
Wow.
And so that isn't to say the market's going to go on forever. The sentiment indices that we calculate tend to have good forecasting ability for a month or two into the future at most. So this is a very short-term indicator, but at least it suggests that for the rest of the summer at least, the market, if you believe contrarian analysis, should have an upward bias.
Okay. Do you get all the advisory individual picks, and what do you think the most they favor right now?
Yeah, we do look, in order to track the advisors, we actually trade on a trading platform in our offices. Okay. We trade all their portfolios, so we know exactly what they're recommending, how long they've been recommending it, when they sell it. We have their entire trading history.
Wow.
And right now, the stock that is recommended the most is Apple.
Okay.
And we track about 200 advisors, and believe it or not, 25 of those advisors are recommending Apple, which is to say 1 out of 8 advisors is recommending this one stock. Now, you might say, well, 1 out of 8 isn't all that high, but for the newsletter industry, that is a high degree of popularity. No other stock comes close. The next most popular stock is recommended by, I think, 18 newsletters right now. So you go from 25 to 18, and that's Chevron.
Okay.
And one of the oil stocks.
So, do you think that's the good thing for the Apple stock or Chevron stock, or why the oil stock just crashed recently, and you think that people just bottom fishing on the oil stock and also the Apple? A lot of people think they are going to have to big run, but after they enter into the component of the Dow Jones industry average, the stock just doesn't move since April.
I know, it's fascinating. Even though you'd think that because I'm a contrarian that I'd say that when there's that much popularity it's not a good thing, but we have found that contrarian analysis does not work for individual stocks the same way that it works for the broad market. So even though the broad market, I would say, is not a good thing if there was too much bullishness, the fact that Apple is very popular doesn't necessarily mean that from a contrarian point of view you would express any concern about Apple. That isn't to say it'll go up continuously, but at least from the point of view of its popularity, I would not express concern.
Okay, last question about gold. It hit new recent low. What do you think of the advisory? They kind of bearish, or they kind of think, wow, it's going to collapse. We don't want to get rid of it. And the last question also is about the Chinese equity. I don't know how many advisory kind of bullish on the Chinese equity market or no.
Right. Well, let me first talk about gold. It turns out that it's just the opposite situation as for the stock market. Here, we don't see enough of the advisors throwing in the towel. You'd expect, like as you point out in your question, that people would just be giving up and they'd just be saying, I'm never going to believe in gold again, because gold has been so frustrating to so many timers for so long. Sure. As you point out, it's hit a new low recently, and yet we don't see it. Now, they are pretty discouraged, don't get me wrong, but just the same way that if you or I 6 months ago had tried to predict what you'd expect in the stock market, given that we're all-time high, you'd expect a lot more bullishness, and we don't see it. Okay. So from a relative point of view, you have relative bearishness in the stock market. Just the opposite situation applies to the gold market. So right now, if you and I had been talking 6 months ago and said, okay, we have gold down at around $11.40 an ounce, which is down quite a bit. I mean, it hit its all-time high of between $1,900 and $2,000 an ounce several years ago. If we had predicted that gold would be down as much as it is today, we would have guessed a lot more bearishness on the part of the advisors, and we don't see that. So from a relative point of view, not absolute, but relative point of view, we still see some timers are holding on to their relative bullishness. And that's not a good sign. I think with the final low in gold will be when people just throw in the towel and they say, I'm giving up on gold. It's just never going to supply me the kind of returns that I'm hoping for. And ironically enough, that'll be close to the bottom.
Okay, so the last part of the question is about Chinese equity market. Does your financial advisor follow the Chinese equity market or Chinese stock list in the U.S. at all?
Absolutely. Several of not as many as I bet will be the case several years from now. But right now, I think there's about 3 or 4 newsletters that focus only on Chinese equities. And then, of course, a number of others will recommend some Chinese stocks among many other stocks from companies around the world. Their attitude towards Chinese stocks depends on whether they take a short-term or a long-term point of view. Most of them take a very long-term point of view, which is to say they're going to bet on the strength of the Chinese economy, which will be the far highest determinant of how they do over the longer term, and they're bullish. But they're from a short-term point of view, they're quite worried.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
那么最后呢，我们来了解一下下周都有哪些值得关注的业绩以及经济数据。将会于下周一公布的是6月份耐用品订单指数，该指数呢是反映了6月份制造业活动的情况。而下周三呢将会有重头戏，7月份美联储的利率决议公布。而下周四将会公布的呢是2季度的 GDP 初值，而周五将会公布的是7月份的芝加哥 PMI 指数。再来关注一下下周将会公布业绩的公司。那么周一呢将会公布业绩的是百度公司，而周二呢制药巨头辉瑞制药也会公布业绩，周五将会公布业绩的是埃克森美孚石油。想要随时随刻获得我们的资讯信息，请扫描屏幕上的2维码，关注中文投资网的微信公众号，不要错过名师与名嘴的投资专场秀。洛杉矶圣盖博希尔顿酒店 AM 1300全程直播。本期的节目呢就到这里了，我们下期再会。